Let's be honest for a second. You're not lazy. You're just mentally exhausted, and nobody ever taught you how to deal with that.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. Because when you don't understand what's happening in your mind, you start blaming yourself.
Exactly. You wake up, you check your phone, you scroll for a bit, and somehow, you already feel drained before your day even begins.
And then you tell yourself, okay, today I'm gonna be productive. But when it's time to start, you just sit there, staring at your screen, doing nothing.
And in that moment, your brain starts whispering, "You're so lazy. You have no discipline. You're wasting your life."
Yeah, that voice is brutal. And the worst part? You believe it.
But what if that voice is wrong? What if the problem isn't that you're lazy, but that your mind is completely overloaded?
Like too many thoughts, too much information, too much pressure, and no real rest.
Exactly. We live in a world where your brain is constantly being stimulated. Notifications, messages, videos, news. Your mind never gets a break.
So when it's finally time to focus, your brain just shuts down.
Not because you're lazy, but because you're tired in a way sleep can't fix.
And I think a lot of people are living like this right now. They look fine on the outside, but inside, they feel completely overwhelmed.
So, if you're listening to this, and you've been calling yourself lazy lately, maybe, just maybe, you've been misunderstanding yourself. Hey, before we go deeper into this, if this already feels a little too real, make sure you follow this podcast. Because here, we're not just learning English. We're learning how to understand our own minds, one conversation at a time.
Yeah, think of this as a space where you can slow down, breathe, and maybe feel a little less alone.
All right, let's talk about why your brain feels so tired, even when you haven't done that much.
So, what you said earlier really hit me. That whole idea of being mentally exhausted. Because honestly, that's exactly how I felt last weekend.
What happened?
I had a completely free day. No work, no deadlines, no responsibilities. And I remember thinking, finally, I can get my life together.
That sentence is always dangerous.
I know, right? So I made this whole plan in my head. I was gonna clean my apartment, go for a run, maybe read a book, be that productive version of myself.
Yeah, the ideal version we all imagine.
Exactly. But instead, I woke up, grabbed my phone, and just started scrolling.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, at first it felt harmless. Just checking messages, watching a few videos. But then 1 hour turned into 3. And before I knew it, half the day was gone.
That's that doom scrolling trap. You don't even realize you're stuck in it.
Exactly. And the weird thing is, I wasn't even enjoying it. It wasn't fun. It just felt automatic. Like my brain was on autopilot.
Yeah, like you're there physically, but mentally you're just gone.
Right. And every now and then, I'd look at the time and feel this wave of guilt.
That heavy feeling in your chest.
Yeah, like, why am I like this? Why can't I just get up and do something?
That self-questioning can be really painful.
It is. And the more I thought about it, the worse I felt. But instead of stopping, I just kept scrolling.
Because it's easier than facing that feeling.
Exactly. It's like you're trying to escape the discomfort, but you end up making it worse.
That's such a real cycle. Avoid, feel worse, avoid more.
Yeah, a loop. A really toxic loop. And by the end of the day, I didn't do anything I planned. Not a single thing.
Yep, those days hit hard.
I just sat there, feeling completely useless.
And let me guess, that voice came back again?
Of course. Louder than ever. You're so lazy. You have no control. You're falling behind.
Yeah, that inner voice doesn't hold back.
Not at all. And for a moment, I actually believed it. I thought, maybe this is just who I am.
That's the dangerous part. When a temporary state starts to feel like your identity.
Exactly. But later that night, something shifted.
What do you mean?
I wasn't scrolling anymore. It was quiet. And for the first time all day, I just sat there and really paid attention to how I felt.
No distractions?
None. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't unmotivated. I was just completely mentally overloaded.
Like your brain had too much going on?
Yeah, too much information, too many thoughts, too much pressure to be better.
That constant pressure to improve, it's exhausting.
Exactly. Even on my day off, my brain wasn't resting. It was still thinking about everything I should be doing.
So technically, you weren't resting at all.
Not even close. My body was still, but my mind was completely overactive.
And when your brain is like that, of course you can't focus.
Exactly. That's when it hit me. Maybe the problem isn't that I don't want to do things. Maybe my brain just doesn't have the energy anymore.
That's such an important realization, because it changes the question. Instead of asking, "Why am I so lazy?" you start asking, "Why am I so tired?"
Yeah, and those are two completely different conversations.
You know what's interesting? Most people don't realize this, but your brain isn't designed to handle this much input all the time.
Yeah, like we think it's normal now, but it's actually not.
Exactly. Think about it. The moment you wake up, you check your phone, messages, notifications, news, social media. Your brain goes from 0 to full speed in seconds.
There's no transition, no space to just wake up slowly.
Right. And when your brain is constantly receiving information, it never gets the chance to process it.
So it just keeps stacking up?
Exactly. It's like opening 50 tabs in your browser and never closing any of them.
That's such a perfect example. No wonder everything feels so chaotic.
Yeah, and when your brain gets overloaded like that, it goes into a kind of survival mode.
What does that mean?
It means your brain is trying to protect you. So instead of focusing on difficult tasks, it pushes you toward easy, low-effort activities.
Like scrolling.
Exactly. Because scrolling requires almost no mental energy.
So it's not that we're weak. It's that our brain is trying to recover?
Yes. But here's the problem. What feels like rest is actually not real rest.
Yeah, because you're still consuming.
Exactly. You're still feeding your brain more and more stimulation. So it never actually resets.
That explains why, after hours on my phone, I feel even more exhausted.
Right. Because your brain is still working. It's just working in a different way. I think this is where a lot of people get confused. They think, I didn't do anything today, so why am I so tired?
Yeah, I've asked myself that so many times.
But the truth is, doing nothing physically doesn't mean your mind was resting.
That hits hard.
Your body can be still, while your mind is completely overworked.
And when that happens, even small tasks feel impossible.
Exactly. That's when things start to feel overwhelming. Simple things, like replying to a message or starting a task, suddenly feel too heavy.
Yeah, like your brain just says, I can't deal with this right now.
And instead of understanding that signal, we fight it.
We push ourselves.
Or we judge ourselves.
Yeah, We say things like, I need more discipline. I need to try harder. I need to stop being lazy.
But sometimes, trying harder is not the answer. Sometimes, you don't need more discipline. You need more awareness.
Awareness of what?
Awareness of your own mental state. Understanding when your brain is tired, instead of attacking yourself for it.
That's such a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. Because when you understand what's happening, you stop taking it personally.
And you stop calling yourself lazy.
Exactly. You start realizing, this is not a personality problem. This is a mental state.
That shift alone can change everything.
It really can, because once you see it clearly, you can respond differently.
So maybe the problem isn't that we don't have motivation.
Maybe we're just constantly mentally drained, and we never gave ourselves permission to rest. So if someone is listening right now, and they feel exactly like this, mentally tired, overwhelmed, stuck, what should they actually do?
Honestly, I think the first step is stop trying to fix everything at once.
Yeah, because that's what we usually do, right? We feel bad. So we try to suddenly become a completely different person overnight.
Exactly. We go from zero to unrealistic expectations. And that just creates more pressure.
Which makes you even more exhausted.
Right. So instead of asking, how do I fix my whole life? Maybe we ask, how can I make this moment feel a little lighter?
That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, because when your brain is tired, you don't need intensity. You need gentleness.
So, what does that look like in real life?
For me, it started with something very simple. I stopped reaching for my phone first thing in the morning.
That alone is hard.
It is, but I realized the moment I check my phone, my brain is already overstimulated.
Yeah, you're basically starting your day in reaction mode.
Exactly. So now, I give myself just a few minutes of silence. No input, no noise, just breathing.
That sounds small, but I feel like it's actually powerful.
It is, because you're giving your brain space to reset.
What about during the day, when you're already overwhelmed?
I started doing these little mental breaks. Nothing complicated, just stepping away, even for 5 minutes.
No phone?
No phone. That's the key. Because if you go on your phone, it's not really a break.
Yeah, it's just more stimulation.
Exactly. Instead, I just sit or walk or look outside and let my brain slow down.
So you're basically allowing your mind to breathe.
Yeah, and another thing that helped me a lot was lowering my expectations.
That's a big one.
Instead of saying, I need to be productive all day, I tell myself, let me just do one small thing.
That feels so much more manageable.
Exactly, because when everything feels overwhelming, small steps feel possible.
And once you start, it's easier to keep going.
Yeah, but even if you don't, that's okay too.
That's important.
Because we're so used to measuring our worth by our productivity.
Yeah, like if we didn't achieve anything, the day was a failure.
But maybe resting is the achievement.
That's such a different way of seeing it.
Yeah, because when your brain is exhausted, rest is not a reward, it's a need.
And ignoring that need only makes everything worse.
Exactly.
So maybe the goal isn't to push harder.
Maybe the goal is to listen better.
To your own mind.
Yeah, because your brain is always giving you signals.
We just don't pay attention.
Or we ignore them because we think we should be stronger.
But taking care of your mind, That is strength.
All right.
Before we end this, let's just slow down a little. No rush.
Yeah. Just stay here with us for a moment.
First one, mentally exhausted.
Not your body, your mind.
Say it with us. Mentally exhausted.
Again, mentally exhausted.
Sentence. I'm not lazy. I'm just mentally exhausted.
Next, doom scrolling.
Scrolling, without thinking, without stopping.
Say it. Doom scrolling.
Sentence. I didn't rest. I was just doom scrolling. Next word, overwhelmed.
When everything feels like too much.
Say it. Overwhelmed.
Sentence. I feel overwhelmed even with small things. Next, overstimulated.
Too much input. Too much noise. Too much information.
Say it. Overstimulated.
Sentence. My brain feels overstimulated. Last one. Mental reset.
Not doing more, but stepping back.
Say it.
Mental reset.
Sentence. I need a mental reset, not more pressure.
So, if you've been calling yourself lazy,
Maybe that's not the full story.
maybe you've just been mentally exhausted for a long time.
And instead of resting, you kept pushing
Or escaping.
or blaming yourself.
But what if nothing is wrong with you?
What if your mind is just asking for a break?
Not more discipline.
Not more pressure.
Just a little space.
A little silence.
A real mental reset.
You're not lazy.
You're just tired in a way people don't always see. If this felt real to you, stay with us.
We'll talk again soon.